Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Obsidian-Radio with your host Najee, a show dedicated to opening our minds to other realities. Please listen, learn, and enjoy. Welcome, everyone, to Obsidian-Radio Episode 3 with your host Najee. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Tyler Gibb. He is the creator of the feature-length, independently produced online science fiction film Minushi. And for the next maybe half hour or so, we'll be discussing the film and Tyler's other work with film and animation. And welcome to Obsidian Radio. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Thanks, Najee.
So I guess I'll start with how'd you get into animation in the first place?
Animation. Well, depends on how far you want to go back. I used to make flip books as a kid. That would be my first animation. And I guess more pertinent to Minushi and to the internet in general, I started in 98, sort of just exploring new softwares. And the internet was pretty young then. And really the only way to tell a story online, because of just really low bandwidth, to be honest, was through animation, because at that time you didn't have YouTube. I mean, YouTube isn't that old, and you didn't have video. It just wasn't a possibility. But what was possible was using Flash animation, the software Flash, because it used a certain type of graphic. It was much more conducive to telling a story with video online. So that was really the way that I got into it. It wasn't sort of I hate to say it. It wasn't that I was strictly a fan of animation, although I am a fan of animation. It wasn't the animation that drew me in. It was the willingness to explore ways of telling stories using the internet. Just having grown up in a different system, we were right at the fringe. We were right at the beginning of the internet, and that was it was a brave new world. It was a new way of telling stories, and so animation just became the default media for doing that.
I do remember when, like maybe a decade ago, Flash was like really huge before YouTube came on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the only medium that could be used at that time you had music, you had MP3 compression was already in existence, so music and sound was out there. But the only way to really show visuals in a practical, widespread way was using Flash. And at the time, I had a web magazine site that me and a buddy had started, and we started introducing Flash, and I spun that Flash work off to another site and called boneland.com, and there was it was comedy shorts, very basic stuff, a lot of just sophomoric type of humor, but
what
at the time,
was the website again?
What's that?
What was the website called?
It was called boneland.com.
Oh, boneland.com.
Boneland.com. It's not as perverse as it sounds. It's just a little bit silly. And at the time, it was. But at the time, the internet was very young. It's hard to imagine back some kids sort of growing up now. It's hard for them to even imagine a time where you didn't have a smartphone and you didn't have instant video that you could do yourself right away. We were in the dark ages of the internet. It was
pretty much.
It was text, and if you wanted to show any kind of movement, any kind of video component, then you had animation. And so there was a bunch of us. There was a bunch of websites that sort of pioneered that movement towards using Flash to get. It wound up being mostly comedy at the time because it was the easiest thing to do, and it got passed around a lot. And that's sort of really where the whole viral video movement, I guess, began. Was back then. And then moving towards Minushi, that was basically after the internet bubble burst, and everybody was sort of struggling to find a new way of doing things. And I decided that I wanted to stop doing shorts so much and explore a new possibility, which is what I always had a passion for, which was features. And so I moved away from the comedy because I like to diversify a little bit, and came up with the concept for this science fiction adventure story, and stuck to what I knew in terms of production, which was the animation component, using Flash. and started what I thought was going to be admittedly an 18-month process. It turned into almost 4 years of hand drawings and animating everything in Flash, and then releasing it online. And during that time, YouTube came into being. A lot of other video sites like YouTube came into being, and so there was a bigger distribution platform at that point to be able to get it out there.
Did you ever go to like school to learn the animation, or did you teach yourself?
I'm mostly self-taught. Animation for school. I took some. I was part of an animation club in college. Was it an animation club? It was a film club actually. I just wound up doing stop motion animation, using film, using an old editing deck, using just learning the basic kind of concepts of animation and of film. And at the time in college, to be honest, everything was so new in terms of using computers for graphic design and illustration and all that stuff. Everything was so new that the teachers were literally learning at the same rate as us. We could see it in the way they were teaching, that the night before they were sort of reading up on the latest things and then coming and teaching us the next day, and some of the students were getting ahead of them, and it was a weird time, because everything was changing so fast. So yeah, self-taught for the most part, but never shied away from learning what I could, from teachers and that type of thing.
So what gave you the idea for the story? Like, what inspired it?
Minushi. Getting away from comedy was the start of it. The story itself, it was... I wanted to do something big. Doing the comedy stuff was very one note. There wasn't a lot. It was very constrained, and I thought I want to put some people on an adventure, and I wanted to make it big in the sense of visually and in the scope of the story, and I wanted to be generally appealing. I wanted to go for sort of a general audience, I think there was a combination of just a bunch of influences. I've always been a fan of Godzilla movies and those big monster movies, and of anime. That some early anime would make its way into North American television on like Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, and Saturday morning cartoons. It was all sort of mixed in there, and so I think that it just when I decided I wanted to do it, and it was the first screenplay I wrote too, so I had really no idea, where to begin. I'd only ever written things that were 5 pages long, so I just sort of ran with the idea, just let it all kind of flow out. But there wasn't really that one thing that inspired me to do that, other than I wanted to mix a bunch of stuff that I liked. I like the idea of characters that are rebellious and that are going to do their own thing, and just that sort of unknown alien kind of mystery that the robots, the giants in the story represent. And yeah, it was just a bunch of stuff. I don't know how better to put it, really.
Where'd you get the name from? I always wonder what Minushi meant.
Minushi. I always say that anybody who wants to know what the name is has to buy the DVD set.
You can't say.
Minushi, coming up with the titles is always a big deal for me. I'm not sure how well Minushi succeeded in being the title that it was. It was a play on, I guess, my obsession with detail, and it kind of comes from the word minutia, which small tiny details, and just the plural of minutia is minutiae. But anyway, it was kind of sort of just that was what got the ball rolling on that, and I also like the idea. And in the font that I chose to display the title, making it a little bit abstract from a visual perspective and from sort of an auditory perspective, I always like the idea that if things are a little bit hard to understand, it keeps people looking that much longer. There was a movement in poster art in the middle of the last century where designers were using these fonts that were kind of hard to read, but they were hard to read in a good way, in the sense that you looked at them and you wanted to keep looking at them because you couldn't quite make out the word, but if you looked at it long enough, you could. And that's what I liked about Minushi was you hear it once and you're like, what? I don't quite understand what that is. But the more you look at it, the more you work out what the word is, and it sticks in people's minds. It was more of a kind of a marketing idea on that level. You know, at some point you need to put a name on something. So that's my long-winded way of explaining the name.
The music, the sound effects, the voices, and the dialogue, that was all you, or did anybody help you?
Well, I had a co-conspirator with some of the music, and I had some friends and family do some voices. For the most part, sound effects, all that stuff, for the most part, yeah, everything's pretty much me. For better or for worse. It's the cheap way of doing things. It's not always the best way of doing things, but you know, it was what I could afford at the time, and you know, I gave it a shot. So it is what it is.
I'm wondering, how did you record the voices? Was that a studio, or was that some other cheap way?
Yes, the studio was in my bedroom. It was my bedroom closet, and I used the closet because it already has a bunch of clothes hanging around in it. And I had a terrible microphone, clothes and fabric, just because that dampens the reverb, dampens the sound of your voice. So I would hang towels, I would hang blankets. I had this tiny little microphone, everything I could afford. It was in no way a proper condenser mic. It was just a little lapel mic. Put it on a tripod, hung it in set it up in the closet with all these clothes hanging around, and just, you know, everybody who came in to record a voice, they had to stand there with their faces in my closet and just, you know, yell and record dialogue and shine a light on the script in their hands, and it was sort of ridiculous, but
wow,
yeah, it's guerrilla tactics, you know. It's all you could do at the time. So
wow,
yeah,
that's how I feel recording the show, just working what you got.
That's right. Fake it till you make it.
The actors, who were they? I know one is called what's her name? Vidya, or is it Lydia or Vidya Luchman?
That's right, Vidya Luchman. That's Vidya with a V. My wife, my partner of almost 18 years at this point. Makes us sound like we're in our 50s, but we actually got together when we were kids, basically.
And she voiced Trixi, right?
What's that? Sorry.
She voiced Trixi.
That's right. She voiced Trixi.
And who
she
else?
may have voiced some other characters along the way. I can't remember at the moment. But yeah, she voiced Trixi. I voiced Khal. So I'm not sure I could even do some of the voices that I did back then, because of course, in the 4-year process, the voices all come at the beginning. You know, that's literally storyboard, and you throw some voices in there. That was, you know, month 1, and then years and years pass, and you're still working with those same voice recordings. So at this point, you know, I got pretty raspy when I was doing Mr. Tinker's voice, and I'm not even sure that I could still pull off some of those voices. But
wow.
Yeah, got whoever I could, and like I said, the other ones were friends.
Okay, so you, Vidya, and then maybe a few friends, and that was it?
That was it. That was it for that one, yeah.
And you never did like professional acting before?
Professionally, no. I've done some voice acting that I've gotten paid for. I don't know how professional it was, but yeah, I mean, studio work a little bit. But no, for the most part, not at that point anyway. The other stuff came a little bit later, but no, just reading the script and, you know, trying to bring what I could to it.
When I look at the designs, I notice like their face kind of reminds me of like Bugs Bunny or whatever. And you were saying that it was referenced more to anime, but I feel like it was like, you basically answered like maybe 10 minutes ago that it was like a combination of all the different cartoons you watch on like Saturday morning, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I've taken flack over the kind of look of the characters. If I had to do it over again, I might have chosen more of an anime type of look. I'm never a big anime guy. Like, I mean, I appreciated it in the mix with everything else, but I was never like, you know, I think some people are pretty hardcore about one style over another, and that's cool. But I've always taken my influences from everything, and I mean, Minushi's influences, they can have some animation influences, but if I'm honest, a lot of influences are non-animation influences, you know. And
Right.
so when I came up with the characters, I mean, I've always been an illustrator, and the characters, it was an organic process. It's a sketchbook, and I just kept drawing the same character, developing it, and those big bright eyes, I don't know, it just it's always kind of been a hallmark of what I do, and it just made its way in there. And if I were much more, if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have been more strategic about it, and looked at what the market was receptive to, and applied all kinds of thoughts like that. But you know what, that's now. That's what I know now, and I'm not sure that. Well, I know that it doesn't matter anymore, because at the time that was what I enjoyed. It was what I did, and it was all those choices were honest, and they just came out of me. They came from where they came from at the time.
Okay. Let me see. Now, like, how did you design the characters? Because I noticed that a lot of them, they seem like they're more darker skinned. I'm kind of curious as to why you went with that design. I like it, but I'm just curious about it.
Yeah, I'd like to say it's an unconscious decision, but if I'm honest, I'm obviously aware of it. I become aware of it after they're designed. But Minushi's set sort of in the future. It's sort of, is it an Earth like ours, or is it an alternate thing? I mean, I've never given that too much thought, but I know that it was a future tense. It was a different place. Now, when I think about the future, I don't think about, and this is going to sound a little bit tacky, but it's the way I was brought up. I don't think about race. I don't think about those kind of, like, in the future, I think everybody is going to wind up mixed. You know what I mean? So when I look at these characters, when I look at my heroes are going to be these characters who have descended from all people, not just one people. And
that actually makes sense.
Oh,
I see where you're going with that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess that's sort of the way it fits in, just organically into what I've been doing, and I guess it's always sort of been there. Anyway, that's sort of it.
Now, how much did this cost to, like, this 4-year process? Was it, like, really expensive, really cheap?
Well, let me see. I mean, I committed, when I say 4 years, I don't mean weekends. Like, I was working every day on this.
Yeah.
And that's expensive in terms of time. So it becomes putting a price on my own time. The cost, as I just said, the microphone, cheap microphone, using Flash. It was a cheap software. I was working on a laptop that was getting older by the year. So it wasn't. There was no overhead. Working out of my house, so it was out of my apartment. So there was no overhead in that sense. But that time does get expensive. It got more and more expensive every year. But back in the day, the early internet, because of Boneland, because of the success of my site Boneland, and because of just that boom that was happening at the beginning, I was able to sort of parlay that into the time that I could spend on Minushi. But again, if I knew then what I knew now, then I probably would have had a better plan than just sort of working on it and hoping that it would go somewhere. But so there were no immediate costs, but it took a lot of time.
Did you make any profit off of it? The DVDs?
In experience, yes.
Huh? Okay.
In experience, yes. That stuff is invaluable. The experience that I got from working on it. Was there any profit? No. I mean, not 4 years worth. That's for sure. There was, I sold some DVDs, got to go to a festival. That kind of stuff is good, but no, I'm not retiring off of Minushi. That's for sure.
When you look at it, do you feel like you wanted to, if you had the chance, would you redo certain things about the character design?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
In fact, the first 4 episodes, I did redo them at a certain point because my style had changed over those months that I was working on it. Unfortunately, I started giving more detail, started to I guess, in my opinion, improve on things. And so I went back and I changed all those the first 4 episodes, the first 4 chapters, which amounted to about the first 20 minutes of the movie, and just rework them. And I had to stop myself, because I would have just kept doing that, and I'd still keep doing it. But you got to move on. I've got lots of projects I want to do, and at a certain point, you just have to lock it down. You just have to be happy with where you are and move on.
Now, I know there's something that I thought was interesting about what you did with Khal and Trixi.
Mm-hmm.
She seems like the more dominant one, where he seems more like, I don't want to say submissive, but he seems like more in the background.
He's a pushover, yeah.
Yeah. Like, is there a reason they did that? Did that reflect anything about you, or is that just what you chose?
I don't know. I'm drawn to stronger female characters. I always have been. That's kind of becoming a bit of a...
It's way more common now than it used to be.
Yeah. It's
science fiction, at least.
People like to think. I think that it's getting more common. Is it really? I'm not sure. I think we like talking about it, but I think we might be picking out the 1 or 2 instances where it's still predominantly kind of a male-driven, storytelling in general is sort of features a male hero. That's not always. No, I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case or that it's wrong or anything. I've personally always. I mean, I'm a feminist, and I've always sort of been drawn to those female heroes, and that not making them masculine, not taking females and making them, into just sort of transposing that male character into a female character, but just when it's applicable, then that's just always what I've been drawn to. I don't think there's more to it than that.
It sounds like you're trying to make like the female characters like more multi-dimensional, but still feminine. That's what it sounds like you're talking about, but it don't sound like to me.
Well, I think that male characters can certainly be multi-dimensional too. It's whatever fits the story, and this story. Why was it Trixi instead of Khal that was looking for her long lost brother? I don't know. It's just the way it rolled out.
Okay.
It's tough to really put my finger on it. I've written many screenplays since then, unproduced screenplays, and I'd say half of them are probably, at least half of them have a female lead or a female protagonist. It's something with the story, something about the way it comes together. I can't put my finger on it. It's certainly not that overt or deliberate. It's just I noticed that it is something that's always been in my work.
Okay. Now, there are 2 parts of the movie towards the end of it that I thought were kind of weird, but the one part where Mr. Tinker gets crushed by the giant robot, I'm like, how did he survive that? That part always confused me.
He's quick. He didn't get crushed. He ducked out at the last minute.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes I think that's kind of a. I guess it's a throwback to those kind of commercial breaks. Saturday morning cartoons commercial breaks.
Oh.
Something's about to happen, and then you go to commercial and you come back and it somehow worked out. The car's about to drive off the cliff and he's never going to make it, and then all of a sudden you come back from commercial and look, he rolled out at the last minute. It's just those are little story nuances. They're little buttons that just make things a little more exciting.
So you never actually showed it. It was like during the break between.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. If you watch it frame by frame, then he never gets crushed. You think he gets crushed. You hear a sound of the foot coming down, but he never does get crushed. I like that you might have thought he did though, because that tells me that the illusion worked, I guess. So.
Okay. And the second part, when Trixi was getting captured by, was it General Werner?
Yeah.
She like overpowered him and the soldiers. I'm like,
yeah.
When you look back at that, did you think that looked kind of odd in hindsight or no?
I don't. And I'll tell you what. I am familiar with enough martial arts to know that size means nothing, and I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed putting those things in there for that exact reason, that I could, in fact, defend that, and that I know that with the right skills and the right training and my notion for Trixi's backstory, which is never overtly played out, is that, but you see it in the way she does. She fights people, and she obviously isn't just throwing this together. She's obviously trained this at some point. So my backstory for her is that this is what she does in her spare time, is she learns to fight. And it's stuff like that. I can guarantee you that someone her size could easily take command of a situation like that. I've seen that, and it's the least fictitious part of the whole story, for sure.
You trained in martial arts yourself, or you just witnessed it, or?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, did you ever come up with a full backstory about Khal and Trixi at some point, or no?
I did. I mean, a full backstory. I think. Well, Khal's backstory plays out in the story.
Yeah, it
itself,
does
right?
a little bit. Well, at least him and his mother it does. But Trixi's there's nothing.
You eventually do get sort of his backstory. Trixi a little less so. I've never put it to paper, but in my mind there was enough there that I could sort of build the characters on it and understand where they're coming from, and just sort of in my mind I could picture the neighborhoods and the way they grew up and that type of thing. But nothing that needed to be there in the script, And I do that a lot for my characters. Is I'll write more elaborate backstories than I need to, frankly, but it helps give the character a place for me to draw on. When I'm writing the character and when I'm writing their dialogue, it helps me to know, hey, this makes sense. This would be their attitude towards this situation because of what they've been through in their backstory. So I think that's an important part of the process for developing characters, anyway.
And I watched the film maybe 3 or 4 times. And I feel like I really like the symbolism that I got from it, and that the real enemy was centralized authority of humanity, not the robots. That's you're familiar with the Hegelian dialectic, right?
I am not.
Oh, that's basically what your story was. It's the problem, reaction, solution.
Okay.
They lie and said that everyone's getting attacked by robots. They then use that as an excuse to oppress people and then take them into the army.
Okay. And what's that title again?
No, it's not a movie. It's I can't remember the name of it, but it's this idea or this phrase that's used to explain the human condition.
Okay. Huh.
And it's called the Hegelian dialectic.
Hegelian dialectic. Well, you know what? It's not the first time someone has sort of juxtaposed Minushi against either what you just said, or another movie or a book, and I'd love to say, hey, yeah, I'm super smart and I just figured all that stuff out and put it all into one movie. I'd love to be able to do that, but the fact is, I think that being brought up on pop culture, things get, they work their way in. I mean, no one's a blank canvas. No one's coming up with this stuff on their own.
Right.
You're drawing from what you've seen and heard and everything from growing up. And I mean, growing up, entertainment, watching, television, movies, and reading books. That was my bread and butter. That was all I did. So, things seep in there. I mean, I'm not gonna. I can tell you right now, that was not on my mind when I was writing Minushi. But, the stuff's all in there, and I'm not gonna take credit for having come up with all of this stuff, because there's a melting pot in each of our brains, and I think it all gets mixed in together and comes out. So I'm not surprised to hear that there's a similarity or some kind of parallel to some other story or thought or philosophy.
No, I wouldn't say that you came up with it, but I was saying that I was just asking if that's what you decided to go with when you came up with the symbolism of the storyline.
Yeah, like I said, no, I mean,
okay,
yeah.
Which actually might even be better. It's like you came up with that same idea without even knowing that that's what it was.
Yeah, independent discovery. That's a writer's favorite thing and most feared thing. No one ever wants to write the same story as someone else, but sometimes it happens.
Because everyone's kind of drawing from the same subconscious view of the world, basically. So,
yeah.
What are the other films that you worked on?
My next movie, once I sort of, as I was working on Minushi, then eventually, YouTube, of course, came into existence and higher bandwidth, and it was a whole new world once again. So I felt like I could finally get into actual live action stuff, which is what I, it's what I began with as a kid, running around with a Super 8 camera and stuff, and so I wanted to get back into that. So the next thing I shot was a feature movie called Refrain, which again starred Vidya in the lead. It was just sort of, it was, just shy of being a student film, frankly, because it was on a low budget. Did most of the stuff myself, and at this time we had some actors, we hired some actors and stuff. So it was always, taking what I learned the last time and building on it. But it was live action. It's the next film I worked on, and since then it's been writing scripts and working in different facets of the industry, from storyboarding to editing. Just a bunch of different things.
Oh, so you didn't make any animated films since you finished Minushi?
I haven't. No. You know what?
Okay.
Honest, like true animation, not really. I mean, I use animation in what I do now is, along with storyboarding and concept art, I do pre-visualization. It's going to be a tough one to say. Pre-visualization. Previs. I guess that's why they call it previs. Okay, which I'm sure you've seen, movies often with movies and commercials with complex premises. In order to sell it to buyers, they'll come up with sort of a simple animated version of it. It's almost like an animated storyboard. And so I've been doing some of those lately. So, I mean, that counts as animation. It's not for the public animation. It's sort of a business tool. It's a pitching tool, that type of thing. So in essence, I'm still doing animation. In fact, I'm finishing one right now, which is actually a short film in the style of a previs. So yes, I've still done animation. I haven't done any Flash animation. I haven't done any long form animation since Minushi, but animation is still a part of the process. And when I sit in front of an editing deck, whether I'm using live action footage or animation, a lot of the stuff is still very similar.
And you said that live action film is called Refrain?
That's right, yeah.
Refrain. So where can somebody view or purchase Minushi or Refrain or any of your other work?
Well, I used to have them up on my website. I realize that's not there anymore. If you look me up on imdb.com, if I'm not mistaken, there's still some links. I mean, if you look me up on Amazon and stuff, you'll still find some links to the products. They're available on demand from either DVD or video on demand through Amazon, for sure.
So just type your name on Amazon?
Well, you can type the names of the movie. You can type in Minushi.
Oh, okay.
You can type in Refrain. Type in my name. I'm sure it'll come up. It's been a long time since I don't actively, it's been a while since I've actively tried to sell either movie. Like, I've been out there hustling them. So they're still out there. They're still, every once in a while, someone will come across it and buy a copy, but it's not something that I'm actively pumping. Like I don't have an online store anymore or anything like that.
Do you still have that Minushi website, or you shut that down a while ago?
Minushi website's still live.
Yeah,
wow. It's still up there. Minushi.com. I'm not sure for how much longer, but it is still alive. And that's true, actually. Now that you mention it, Minushi, because of its form, it had chapters. It originally was being released as I was producing each episode / chapter. They were being created and released at the same time online. And once YouTube came into existence, I started using YouTube as a way of releasing them because there was a Flash format and there was a YouTube format. So if you go to my YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Tyler Gibb, then you will find all of Minushi actually in its episode form. And then there's a feature film version of it, which is all of the episodes just cut into a feature film version, which, like I said, is available on DVD and VOD. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely still on YouTube. All those episodes for sure.
Are you monetizing it on YouTube or?
Yeah, there's some ads running on it. I wouldn't call it monetizing. It's it helps keep the site up. That's about it. Yeah, it's not.
Because I was saying if you don't, you should. It might make a little money.
Yeah, well, exactly. It keeps the site alive. That type of thing. It's sort of
that's good.
Keeps itself alive.
So, where else can people find you other than your YouTube channel?
TylerGibb.com.
Okay.
That's my Twitter. Anything Tyler Gibb is pretty much me. So Twitter.com/Tyler Gibb, YouTube, Facebook, all those. I'm out there. I'm about. There's, like I said, until I've just finished up this short film, until recently there hasn't been a lot of new for the public type things, but that stuff's coming. That stuff's coming.
Okay.
It's just since Minushi, it's carving a new path into writing screenplays and that type of thing. So it's a different route. You know, the internet is not the way it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's a much different world. So yeah, that's it.
And that's Tyler Gibb at TYLERGIBB, 2 B's.
That's right. That's right. 2 B's, no S. Everybody throws an S on there for some reason. There's no S.
Okay. Hope I didn't keep you too long. It's a little bit longer than you said, but
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Hey, everybody loves talking with themselves.
I think that's about it. Thanks for coming on to the show.
All right, Najee. Thanks.
Appreciate it. You have a nice one.
You too.
And that is it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Peace. That's the end of this episode of Obsidian Radio with your host Najee. Thank you all for listening. I hope you learned from it and enjoyed. Please check out the Obsidian Radio YouTube channel and Google Plus page for episodes of the show. Also check out the RoboMan 5 YouTube channel and Google Plus page for my rants, blogs, show episodes, and my original music. And finally, check out the Obsidian Radio website for episodes of the show and episode archives. Please like, share, subscribe, and or donate to be a part of this radio show. There will be more enlightening and entertaining episodes posted soon. Peace.